Hello, everybody. This is Jennifer Schaus coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Thanks for joining us in our Webinar Wednesday series. Today, we're going to be covering GSA schedules for software companies, and this is obviously our 12:30 session. We do host webinars every Wednesday at 12 o'clock and 12:30 Eastern. They're all complimentary. The full schedule through 2018 can be found on our website under the webinar section, and all of the recordings are either found on our YouTube channel as well as our website under the archived webinar section. The presenters include anyone from legal, attorneys, pricing and accountant experts, as well as other industry professionals. So thanks for joining us today. As I did mention, they are all recorded and they are all complimentary. Just to let you know some of our upcoming events, we do have a class on Monday, November 5th in conjunction with the Virginia PTAP, which is, I have a GSA schedule now. Later in the month of November, we are hosting our third annual Doing Business with DoD and the Intel community. And then looking ahead to next year, 2019, we have a class scheduled for the 15th of January, covering teaming, partnering, and subcontracting. To get to these links, you can actually go to our website, go to the events section, and all of these classes and conferences, networking events would be listed there. A little bit about us. We are based in downtown DC and provide services for contractors, including GSA schedules, 8A certification, proposal writing, pricing assistance, and more. The events and seminars, as I mentioned, can be found on our website. Here's a short blurb on my background regarding a number of years in government contracting, as well as some educational background. So let's talk about the GSA schedule and GSA proposal for software services. So for any companies that are providing software services, they're somewhat of a unique requirements that GSA is looking for. So before we get into that, let's just briefly talk about a couple main pieces. One is, what is a GSA schedule? We'll then talk about the proposal, some best practices, and then just some concluding remarks about GSA schedules in general. So the first one is, what is a GSA schedule? It's only a marketing tool. It is not required, and it is one of many marketing tools, sometimes referred to as a multiple awards schedule, MAS, again, multiple awards schedule, as well as a federal supply schedule, FSS, federal supply schedule. When we do talk about multiple awards schedule, it means that there are multiple awards being made through the schedule. So in total, there's approximately 20,000 companies that hold GSA schedules. That's where the multiple awards come from. Nobody is guaranteed any sales. It's a competitive process, a vendor shortlist, and the schedule does come with terms and conditions. It's a 5-year contract, and it has 3 5-year renewable periods. So if you exercise all of your renewals from start to finish, it's a 20-year contract. At the end of the 20 years, you can reapply to get back on and hold another GSA schedule. GSA is a non-appropriated agency, so they are going to require that you bring in at least $25,000 per year through your schedule. They're also going to implement what I'll call a GSA schedule tax, which is the industrial funding fee that is 0.75% of your GSA schedule sales. But the main component of the schedule is that it is based on your lowest prices. And that is really where they put the emphasis when they evaluate your proposal, is ensuring that their GSA is receiving your lowest prices. And they do 2 litmus tests. One, they're going to look at your internal discounting policies and procedures. And the second litmus test is looking at competitors who provide similar or the same services and making sure that your prices are in sync with theirs. So as I mentioned, the schedule is a short list. It allows the government to buy from you via, say, an eBay or Amazon type page. That page is gsaadvantage.gov. You can search for products and or services or software there. The schedule, to get onto this kind of vendor shortlist, you need to submit a compliant and preferably competitive proposal. As I mentioned, the main priority of GSA is to secure your absolute lowest prices. That way, your prices are negotiated up front. Once you're on the schedule, the customers can then buy from you directly, knowing that they are getting your lowest prices. As I mentioned, the price analysis goes through 2 phases. Internally, they look at your discounts, your policies and procedures on who, why, and when you've given these discounting procedures or discounts to. And then the second, they're going to look at the other companies that provide similar same services and make sure that you're in sync with them. So let's talk about the components of the proposal. So you're trying now to apply to get onto the schedule. You've got 3 main pieces: the administrative, the technical, and the pricing. Administrative is pretty basic. You've got your SAM registration. You've got your last 2 years of financials, preferably not showing any losses, and a statement on any other schedules that you may hold anytime that you have perhaps submitted a proposal to GSA and it's been rejected, or any other pending applications with GSA. Second piece then is the technical. It's got 4 main components: the corporate narrative and quality control. Those are both 2-page maximums. GSA does have specific questions that they want you to answer for both of those sections. Be sure that you complete those fully and comprehensively, and don't go over the 2 pages. You don't want to submit just 1 page. This is your chance to really show GSA that you do have the experience as well as the quality control measures in place to be a good GSA schedule vendor. The second piece is the past performance. This is going to be contracts that are relevant to the SIN number, the special item number that further identifies what your product or your service is. In this case, obviously software. So you need to have customers that have purchased your software within the last 2 years down to the month that you're submitting the proposal. The open rating survey, this is an anonymous survey of a minimum of 6 customers, preferably happy customers, up to a maximum of 20 customers. If you think somebody might not be happy, you probably want to submit closer to the 20 customers versus the 6 customers. You also need to include, it's required that you include the customers that you list on that 3rd bullet point in that past performance. So if you've got contracts with Susie Q at ABC Company, Susie Q needs to be included in your open rating survey. The last component of the proposal is the pricing. So you'll need a description of your software, what it does, how it's used. You'll need your end user license agreement. So the agreement that you give to your customers on what they sign on how they are using the data or information that you are providing to them in the software, what the terms and conditions are, and that actual agreement that the customer signs. Pricing section also includes some GSA forms, which is your CSP, Commercial Sales Practices, and then your external looking at GSA Advantage, making sure that your pricing is in sync with other competitors. You'll need to have an invoice to justify that you've sold each and every one of the line items, meaning each of the software services that you're providing. And then the last piece will be the price proposal, which is indicating that you are offering GSA a lower rate than the competitors and a lower rate than what your most favored customers have been charged. The software services typically fall under GSA Schedule 70, which covers both IT products and services. This can include hardware under the schedule and other IT professional services, but software will show up in multiple SINs that we've listed here. The first 4 are SINs that your end solution can include software, but then within Schedule 70, the true software typically falls under 132-32, which is term software license, -33 for perpetual, and then 34 for maintenance of software as a service. Now, let's say you're providing Earth observation solutions, sometimes just referred to as EOS. Those may include software. So you need to identify and understand which SIN you're going to get the most traction out of. How can you do that? Ask your customer. If you're selling these services to somebody that's buying these services on a pretty regular basis within whatever agency, you want to find out and ask your customer directly, which SIN number do you typically put these RFPs out? Now, within every SIN, there are limits that the government can buy directly from you without going for bid within the GSA pool of vendors. So make sure that you know those limits. When things do go out for bid, again, you still need to know which SIN number these are going to be posted under. So again, that's a discussion with your customer. And also just looking at the SIN description to make sure that your software contracts in the past speak to those descriptions in the SIN. When we talk about the commercial sales practices, we want to make sure here that you are offering GSA your best prices, typically meaning your lowest prices. What I've got here highlighted, this is coming directly from the CSP form, Commercial Sales Practices. The GSA is looking for your best prices being offered to them regardless of quantity or terms and conditions. Sometimes companies do have exceptions to that. The other piece here of the CSP is identifying who your most favored customer is, and sometimes this can vary per each line item. So if you're selling different data or subscriptions within your software and you've got different customers that get discounts for each of those, sometimes that MFC or most favorite customer will vary. And then the last piece of the CSP, this is in the pricing section again, is are you offering any non-standard discounts, meaning kind of these one-off discounts that either you gave simply to win the business or for any other reasons. And this again here would be either, typically you're going to answer no, but if it's yes, then you can put a explanation on that. Now, before you go down the path of getting on the schedule, we always require, I wouldn't say require, but we do, it behooves you to talk to your customers and find out how they purchase. Do they purchase from the GSA schedule or some other contract vehicle? If it is the schedule, again, make sure there are a couple different SIN numbers that we listed there on that previous slide about where the software falls. So make sure you know where to strategically place your software. You also want to do the competitive analysis before you go down the path to make sure that there aren't other companies providing something similar at half the price of what you are. So conduct that market research and analysis to make sure that your prices are going to be in sync with the other competitors. This is just a quick blurb on or screenshot on the price proposal. So you would have your product description and unit of issue, which is the second column, UOI, again, unit of issue. Sometimes software companies are charging by number of users. Sometimes it's an annual license. Sometimes it's a monthly license. Sometimes it's based on the actual amount of data, whether it's X amount of megabytes that the customer is downloading and using on the software. So you would be very specific here and then offer GSA something that obviously is equal to or better than your most favored customer pricing. You can then also offer quantity or volume discounts as well as prompt payment discounts, and those will be there in your price proposal. For software services, again, an important note for software products or services, your GSA rates are only a price ceiling, meaning you cannot charge higher than those rates on your GSA schedule. But as you bid for work after you're on the schedule, GSA will typically be looking for rates that are lower than your GSA rate. So whatever rate you negotiate with GSA, you want to ensure that you've got some wiggle room below that because, again, post-award, you'll probably be coming in at rates lower than that through your schedule. So best practices, again, do some market research up front to ensure that your customer does prefer the schedule and make sure you know what SIN number he or she prefers to purchase through. You want to make sure your pipeline is filled with some GSA schedule opportunities before you go down the path, because having the build it and they will come strategy sometimes is not wise. Of those 20,000 vendors that hold GSA schedules, about 63% have zero sales through their schedule. So that's a pretty big number. They may have millions of dollars through other contract vehicles or through sole source or simplified acquisition or set aside for small women-owned, veteran-owned, hub zone, 8A, or any of the others. But GSA schedule specifically, you want to make sure that you're going to be able to meet or preferably exceed the 25K sales quota, as well as all the requirements to get onto the schedule. Don't rely on GSA e-buy notifications, which are these RFPs that are dedicated to your schedule and your SIN number to be your business development tool. You really need a human that's out there knocking on the doors that understands not only your software, but the GSA schedule and the federal government, and has the muscle and intelligence to steer some opportunities through your schedule. It's also sometimes it's probably easier with product and or service companies to partner with those companies that are on the schedule versus software companies, but you can also work with dealers, resellers, and there are quite a few in the DC metro area that have that business model. So in conclusion, the schedule as a whole was really not for everybody. Again, the numbers that I mentioned, 20,000 vendors on the schedule, 63% have zero sales through their schedule. So you want to make sure that it is in your best interest. Make sure your pricing is competitive. Again, these are not to exceed rates or price ceilings, so your margins will be low. Low margins, you need heavy volume to really stay alive. And make sure that you fill your pipeline with GSA opportunities before, again, you go down the path. That's it for today for software companies pursuing the GSA schedule. If you do have questions about getting onto the schedule, renewals, audits, modifications, or any other of our services, please contact us directly using the phone number or the email address provided. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you at another webinar soon.